Good afternoon. My name is Lorrie. Welcome to an episode of Upskill Monday here on my YouTube channel. We are quilters. Today we are going to follow up on the Hawaiian applique episode with some reverse applique on the same block. Now, I've not made a lot of progress on that block since last weekend, but I can still show you the skill that you need for reverse applique, which is just applique, cutting it in a different order and setting it up in a different order. Here are my sample blue blocks. I will show you why sometimes reverse applique is better. Here is applique on top, and you can see some of the stitches. Here is another purple block appliqued in the reverse manner, and the stitches are hidden better with the reverse applique. So when I laid this out, there is my piece of fabric. Last weekend while I was at quilt camp, I got the middle part done and about half of the top part. And I'll be working on that more today while it's rainy and dreary here in Michigan and I'm doing some handwork. But in the meantime, I have the hearts to do in these areas, and I'm going to focus on this one and show you how I get that done. So let me flip this over, and you can see here, when I zoom in, you can see that I have some basting stitches, and I have the place to do the basting stitch where we will do the applique. So let me get this basted on that line, and I will show you here in a few minutes. Here we go. Let me bring up the block, and I am using the little light behind so you can see where I have placed fabric so we can do the reverse applique. So you can't see the red layer that is between the top and the background unless I bring up the light. And you can see that there is a heart shape in there, and it is bigger than my outline where we will do the applique. There are a couple ways to do this, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So you can see a little bit where the heart shaped fabric is. It needs to be beyond where I'm doing the actual basting on top so that there is a little bit of a seam allowance. Now, I added the fabric before I added the blue on top because I had that planned out. But if you don't, you can add that inner layer of fabric later on by cutting on top after you did the basting so you know where to cut to. So let me get to some speed basting. So I'm going to cut around this so you can see the fabric inside. The key is not to cut into the inside fabric and to let yourself just cut about 1/4 of an inch around, and then you'll have that fabric to turn under when you actually start to do the applique. So let me do this very quickly so you can see where the applique is going to go. So there it is. Not all of it. So there is the fabric underneath and the stitches where we're going to applique later on today. Keep in mind that your thread should match the shape on top, not the shape inside. Now this is a tighter, smaller shape than we have done, So we're going to need to do some clipping. I'm going to put my needle right here. We're going to need to do some clipping so that we can turn the shape. I'm going to clip from the edge to my basting. Now this is a nice straight spot, so I don't need to worry about that. The key is, and some of you have done clothes construction, I'm sure. That's where I started, was clothes construction, not quilting. So if it won't turn easily, that's where you need to clip it right to the basting. And I'm going to do about half. There's my little clip. And I'm going to clip another one. I'm going to clip this curve because it is not going to turn inside on its own easily. I'm only going to clip half. And I'm going to start on this straight part right here. And remember, I can always trim down a little bit also if I don't want to turn that much. And I'm going to pull out stitches from there to my right past my first clip so that I can turn that under to applique it. I'm just going to pull those stitches out. Now I know you won't be able to see very well where I pulled those stitches from, but it turns a little easier when you've had those stitches. If I pull it back, you might be able to see there's little holes where I put the thread up, the basting thread up through. Like I said, I'm starting in the middle of that flat side, and I'm going to do one thread so that it is close to invisible as possible. Tiny stitches, little bite. And that's all there is to reverse applique instead of regular applique. You just have the fabric underneath. So let's talk about that for a minute. So I put that fabric in there before I basted the shape because I knew that's what I needed to do. But you can always baste the shape, cut the shape out, remove your basting, then put your piece of fabric in back past that seam allowance, then rebaste it and do exactly what I'm doing now. It just takes an extra step. So because I've had some experience with it, I knew I needed to put it in there, and it was easier to put in there before I did more applique. So it's just a thought ahead of time, but if you don't think about it ahead of time, it still can be done. That little piece of thread is bothering. There we go. So let me get on with this, and I will be back in a few minutes when it is all done. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to help my channel grow. See you on Build a Block Wednesday.